So here we are at Movin'On, and I'm here with William Nixon of
Allianz
Insurance. And I'm glad we're talking because I've been following a lot of the speakers over the last 2 days of this conference, and the issue of insurance keeps coming up as a huge issue because as the industry changes and as we introduce automation, agency changes. We don't know who's responsible anymore. So, and everything's moving quickly. It's a quickly shifting paradigm. Tell me where you guys are at. I mean, is this something you're ready for? How do you see it?
Well, we continue to try to prepare for it. I mean, every time there's new technology coming about, we try to prepare ourselves to try to anticipate what's the next loss, how these losses are going to happen in the future. So, I mean, keep in mind, in regards to an auto accident, 90% of all auto accidents are as a result of human error. Whether it's driving too fast for conditions or intoxication or whatever the reason is.
Right.
90% is a result of human error. 10% is a result of technical defect. Something wrong with the automobile, something wrong with the part. Over the period of time, as autonomous driving, start and continue, that paradigm is going to shift. So you take the human element out of it, fewer accidents.
Right.
And the losses are going to shift from being more result of the driver doing something wrong to the technical issues, product manufacturer, defect. So the paradigm is going to shift. With that, we know auto loss is going to decrease.
Right.
It's just natural. It's going to decrease.
Yeah.
As a result of that, insurance companies' number one outlay of cash is loss payment. Loss payments are going to decrease as well. Loss payments decrease, premiums are going to have to decrease eventually.
Yes. So,
that is one of the dilemmas that we have, but then it's going to create other opportunities as well.
As premiums decrease, I mean, does it also not logically follow that the number of insured persons is going to decrease if less people are driving, if there's more car sharing, if there's less car ownership, correct?
Well, that's true. Yeah. That's true. However, auto accidents are still going to happen. But again, the paradigm is going to shift from the responsibility of the driver to the responsibility of the either software manufacturer,
right, okay,
hardware manufacturer, or just the OEMs or those that make the final vehicles.
Right.
So that's where the shift is going to occur. In addition, nowadays you don't have many losses involving hardware or software in auto accidents. But when that do occur, there's going to be an opportunity for cyber liability. And that's where an opportunity where we can shift some of the premiums from automobiles to product to cyber liability.
It seems super complex because in an environment where you have an automobile manufacturer, you have those responsible for the integration of cyber products into the car, who are not the manufacturers, maybe. You may have fleet owners. It seems like a very complex ecosystem within which to sell insurance, to find liability. You get the same feeling?
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone, has to have insurance just to make sure that they're protected for whatever reason, either their driving or their product, and that's going to continue to happen. But again, in what fashion? That's the $100 million question. How is it going to shift? When it's going to shift? In what format? So those are questions that we as the insurance industry have. But again, those that we're working on and try to anticipate that in the future.
Do you, for now, what is your vision of the future? What are you foreseeing? What steps have you taken?
Well, we continue to work with our partners because now Allianz is one of the insurer of those who manufacture automobiles as well as those who supply auto parts. So we continue to work with them to again have dialogue to try to anticipate how those changes are going to happen, as well as we look forward and work with new partners because with this technology coming in place, there's going to be new players. I mean, even now, I mean, you have startups, you have joint ventures with small companies who are bringing the technology into the automobile. So again, just continue working with them, asking the questions and trying to anticipate what's the next step in the future.
So we're living famously through an age of disruption, and one would have thought that, well, insurance is a non-disruptible industry. But this is a case where a major shift in technology and in consumer habits may, in fact, challenge the very paradigm on which insurance has traditionally been built. Is that alarmist point of view, or do you think that's a realistic point of view?
It's a realistic point of view. I mean, technology, it changes all facets of various industries. Insurance as well. I mean, like we talked about earlier, losses are going to decrease, so less money in from premiums. But again, we got to find other opportunities. Insurance industries are for technology because, again, I mean, if you're not for technology, you have to be for advancement. Mm-hmm. But you also have to be able to adapt. If you're going to survive, you have to be able to adapt. So again, that's why we continue to work with our partners and envision growing with additional partners to make sure that we're on top, so that we are still relevant.
Is there somebody who's worked in the field currently you admire, where you think, yeah, they're in the right place, they're doing the right thing? We talk about partners and other companies. Is there somebody that you look to and say, yeah, like they know what they're doing?
Well, yeah, there's a number of companies that do. We currently work with. There is one company actually who was at this conference, Easy Mile. Mm. Easy Mile. They have autonomous. These vehicles that are autonomous that take passengers from one place to another.
Right, shuttles.
Yeah, shuttles. Right. So that is one of the clients that we work with to try to figure out how this is going to work in the future. We're working with them in looking at the data that they generate just based on their movements, their operations. So that is the type of company that we work with to try to help us in anticipating the future and anticipating how insurance is going to work in the future. You
just raised a really interesting point. I think we only have about 2 minutes left, but is the increase in data. I mean, this shifting paradigm is going to result in an incredible amount of data on rider habits and the habits and lifestyles of the insured. Do you factor this into the equation as well?
Oh yeah. Well, there's a couple of things in regards to data. And as a result, is a concern as well, because with so much data, you have to have access to it. Like for instance, from a claim settlement standpoint, in the future, handling claims are going to be different because the vehicles are going to have databases inside the vehicles for the most part.
Right.
So if we have access to that data, it's going to actually make the claim settlement much smoother.
Right. You can see if somebody was driving too fast.
Oh yeah,
It was right.
Yeah.
Very little guesswork.
Yeah. So there would be little doubt, or less doubt than it is today, because you have that information.
Right.
But again, as long as that information is not disrupted somehow, or what have you, or it's not manipulated, if it's accurate, it's gonna help us with the transition.
So, last question: is all this change going to make your life easier or tougher, or both?
It's going to be there's going to be some challenges. The challenges is going to be a lot more players involved, because you're going to have the data, the networks, the hardware, software. But then on the other end, from a claim handling standpoint, it should make it much more simpler, because again, you have the data there that you can analyze to determine how the accident occurred much quicker than you can today.
Thanks for your time. You have a flight to catch, right?
Yes, I do.
I hope you enjoyed Montreal.
Yes, I did.
Thanks a lot.
Nice city. Thank you.
Thank you. First time here?
Yes.